the conversation. It's the conversation. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go. Let's go. No filter, no restrictions. You about to get my opinion in its purest form. So my words, don't try to spin them. What I said is what I said. And what I said, I meant it. The gloves are off now when I'm coming out swinging. So engage in verbal combat, but you better be ready. Cause this here for me is light work, even if the topic's heavy. I'm ready for it all with no running from nothing. You just take the time to digest what I put in, no rushing. But time is moving, don't waste it. You want the real, come and face it. Come sit and talk to me if you want it straight without a chaser. And it might burn a little when you step on up to taste it. But it's nothing harsh, I promise. Just a little conversation.
Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the conversation with Harold and Dave. We've been gone for a little bit, but we are back to talk everything Trump. We try not to, but hey, that's all you get to talk about these days. Are we at war? Are we at a ceasefire? Are we in peace talks? Are we not at war? We're in an excursion, or is it a trip? What is it? Well, before you two answer that, let's see if we can get someone who knows a lot to explain it to us.
Difference between using the term of the aspect of during the conflict of the environment of war versus it being a war. This is a military conflict.
You ever been accused of cheating?
Have you ever had a dream that you want.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Now, they said that at the end, but I understood what that kid was trying to say way easier than I understood what that full-grown adult was trying to say. So what are we in? What's happening?
The term war can be, you have a legalistic interpretation. Once upon a time, nations had a kind of developed pattern of law and interaction, and you would declare war. And once you declared war, the war convention was you could actually kill people, right? And there was a much more legalistic framework around the world. So you declared war, and then you fought, and then you didn't. And after World War II, that just all goes away. And we get into a period where no one really declares war, but we use the word war a lot, right? We have wars on drugs, wars on terror, wars on things. And I think World War II turned the concept of war into this maximalist national effort beyond this idea of, hey, a very constrained formal state of conflict exists. Also, I think the idea that there would be a regularized legal killing match going on lost its currency, lost its legitimacy. I will tell you, in international relations, when we talk about wars and we build data sets, our definition, the generalized definition of a war, is a militarized conflict between two nations in which 1,000 people or more die. We are at war by that definition.
Well, it's my understanding that Congress is the only body within this country that can declare war. Therefore, I often refer to it as an armed conflict. And unfortunately, that's not a familiar, reference as it relates to this particular situation. But at the end of the day, either we're going to go by the rules, which obviously we're not. Those that in this administration have chosen and said some very dangerous things that are going to continue to escalate. And even now, with their supposed ceasefire, there's already been some violations of ceasefire. So we don't really know what we're in. We know that we're in a mess, but we can't say, I won't say we can't say, I can't say we're in a war because, again, we went across the ocean to attack these individuals who, even in congressional hearings, those in the upper echelon of responsibility said that there was no data to substantiate what we did as a country or as a nation in our military and the lives that we've lost, which are heartbreaking because, again, at the end of the day, this is something that could have been avoided. But nonetheless, I can't say that we're in a war. I'll say, back to your question, we're in an armed conflict. Unfortunately, it has led to the loss of life on both sides and a number of people already extremely hurt, damaged, and will never recover from what they've experienced at this point.
Oh, the reason why I did that rhetoric in the beginning, because you guys have both seen by now the explanation of we're at war, we're not at war, and then the president says, "Oh, I have to go back and check on the war," and then one moment says we're not at war. So that's been a little bit of the comedic back and forth. One comedian said, "You know when it's going to be declared a war? When the president stops it so he can say that I stopped the war. That's when it will be solidified as a war." Um, so there's a lot of things that have gone on social media. Of course, one of the things are the defenders of the president stating things like Barack Obama gave billions of dollars to Iran to help their nuclear program, but you guys are mad at the current president for stopping it. We all know that's a bunch of BS, but that's gaining a lot of steam, as a lot of things that aren't true gain steam. And that still wouldn't be a justification. Dave, I don't know if you're familiar, or can you break down, or Harold, could you break down what happened in the talks briefly with Barack Obama and Iran and their nuclear program? Because a lot of people are misguided and confused on what actually happened.
You mean the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that was agreed upon by the United States, Russia, various European allies? It wasn't Obama. It
Yeah,
was
those people,
the worst effing name ever, the JCPOA. Christ. Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Basically, an agreement that we had all the major stakeholders involved in. We came up with a plan that would set up limits, set up monitoring that would allow Iran to have a civilian, peaceful nuclear energy program and refine uranium to the point where it could use it not militarily, but civilian wise. And that plan was in effect, and according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran was complying. Right? It was a very complex thing with monitoring and various things. There was no indication whatsoever that Iran was in any way cheating on it. The problem with the deal was it was limited to what it was about. And the biggest problem with it is it didn't in any way restrict ballistic missile testing. And that was the chief complaint from Trump and a lot of, well, a lot of people who were very critical of it said it didn't do that. And so, but with what it did, it was actually considered to be working at the time.
Well, I mean, Dave pretty much covered everything as it relates to it. The fact that it was a joint agreement between not just us and Iran, but several other nations across the globe. And the fact is that the goal was, because it was under the Obama administration, there's always an intent to try to discard it, make it appear weaker than what it really was. And now we're in a worse condition as a result of these attacks on Iran. And when we get further in this conversation, we'll see that even when we look at the 10-point ceasefire agreement, everything was for the benefit of Iran. So if we had left well enough alone, we'd probably be in a better position, and even with the Straits of Hormuz, they're talking about opening up the strait. Okay, it was open before. Now you got to pay a toll to go through, which is crazy, but that's a whole nother story.
One of the factoids about the complaints about the JCPOA, God, that was such a crappy name. But they got to a point where Iran had checked off all the boxes, and we were going to give them back money. And this is what like just freaked out everyone. We're giving them money. And what it was Iran had paid us to buy 4 destroyers, the Kid class of destroyers, which served in the U.S. Navy, are now in the Taiwanese Navy. And we kept the money and never delivered the destroyers when they had their revolution, but we had the money. And
Hmm.
so everyone said, "Oh, you're going to pay them." It's like, well, we're giving them back the money they gave us for the destroyers that we refused to deliver. And so we're just freeing up an asset. But it was part of, the damn thing is, if you come to an agreement, agreements have to benefit both sides. That's just the way it is. And so to think you could have, Trump seems to think everyone sucker punches us, and he wants to sucker punch everyone. He's got this distorted view of agreements. But I'll stop. I've been called on long.
Well, he's also threatened, of course. Tariffs seems to be his. Remember back in the day when, I don't know if you did this when you were in school, they had a word of the day, word of the month. Well, he's got a word of the year, and the word of the year is tariffs. So he's threatened to implement 50% tariffs on any nation that helps Iran militarily, whether that's with funding or weapons.
You all want me to be short in my answers, and then you trigger me.
No, that
I'm just, where do we go? Um, the Yes, he's into tariffs, and we're still hearing that bullshit. It hasn't worked. It hasn't done what it did. And I will tell you though, something very similar to what we're seeing in the tariff, in that bullshit, right? And again, my problem with the tariffs were he had contradictory purposes, right? He kept saying the tariffs will raise revenue, but then we'll negotiate them away. And if you negotiate an agreement, there are no tariffs, there's no revenue. Okay, just there's all those inconsistencies. But then he would talk about having an agreement. Oh, we have an agreement with this person. We have an agreement with this person. It's just like this ceasefire, right? Harold just talked about the 10 points. No one has any idea, right? The administration is denying what's being reported as the 10 points are the 10 points, and no one can agree on anything about what's in these, and there's no transparency to it. Trump seems to just say there's an agreement when I don't know what the trigger is. Like he has an agreement in principle. He's told that things are looking good, and it's suddenly boom, we have an agreement. Maybe it's because in his private life, his private businesses, he would come to an agreement in principle and let lawyers work out details, and he's used to that. But this is a pattern we've seen: is he proclaims an agreement, and then you go, "What agreement? What are you talking about?" No details. And the last thing I'll say, in peace plans, the devil is always in the details, not in the general
Leave that
principle.
devil alone.
Harold, I don't think he understands what a one-way conversation is.
Well, generally in negotiating, the first person that speaks usually loses. I mean, that's just the moment, and he's doing a lot of talking to the media, but we don't know about the backdoor conversations with Iran. But the fact is they said, meaning Iran, they held it to the line. This is what we agreed to. If you want the straits open, guess what? This is what it's going to take, and they didn't budge, from what I understand, because this is a lot of what was in part of the previous agreement that he decided that he was going to trash or throw into the dumpster. So the sad part about it is we're in a conflict that was very much avoidable, but he allowed himself to get duped by one world leader to attack a whole nother country. And unfortunately, like I said, we lost American lives. We got a lot of soldiers that are injured. And then we also have a school of young girls that was also impacted by this. And God bless their families. But this is crazy. And I'm concerned. You had two pilots almost, captured and pretty much almost killed when they got shot down. So there's a lot of things that are going wrong. We're finding out also Iran even leaked it. Well, not leaked it, but they just put it on blast that their intelligence is outdated. So I don't know what happened in that particular sphere. You guys are military guys. I won't even go into that area. I'll listen and learn. But The fact that Iran said your intelligence is outdated, and then they send a missile far beyond and hit a target far beyond what we as Americans were told they were capable of doing. So there's a lot of lessons to learn from this whole situation. And I hate to say it, but we're almost looking as bad as Russia when they attack Ukraine, as it relates to how this is being handled. More so, not so much from a firepower standpoint, but from a planning standpoint. Because as many have said, and many people are even in the media have said, there's no exit strategy, and that's one of the biggest things I think that's going to hurt this particular um, issue as we move down the line.
Dave, the alarming amount of retirements, forced retirements of leadership that are pointing out things that are wrong in this in the tactical issues. Like people are looking at all these people are just being disloyal and not understanding. No, their rebuttal is about tactical issues. That's what generals do, right? This is not World War II where you draw up a plan and say, "Hey, if 20,000 people get mowed down, we still take the beach," right? They are trying to maximize the effectiveness of the military force and are being turned away at every turn. We're seeing a large amount, for everyone who wants to say this is not racial, a large amount of women and minority leaders being forced into retirement um, at an alarming rate. But people will still paint the picture of this has nothing to do with race. This has nothing to do with gender.
Hmm. I
And
call BS. I'm sorry, Dave. I had to say it.
no, yeah, you should call BS on that because these guys are just so thinly veiled. Hegseth is you know pursuing a white Christian nationalist agenda and is hollowing out the military. I mean, as people are slow dragging or we don't really know what these guys are being pegged for, but he's hollowing out the military, and that is going to hurt. That is going to impact the competence of our military down the road. Is you losing quality people. Now we've got a bench, and I think the military is going to hold strong to their ideals by and large, but you're eroding them from the top. And this guy, Hegseth, absolutely needs to go. Hegseth is utterly incompetent and dangerous. Stephen Miller and Hegseth. Before you get Cash Patel's a nightmare, but he's third on my list, right after those two, and it is problematic. We need to protect the military from this. You aren't going to have a good military if you do this shit.
I agree.
I will say, Lisette brought
Um,
up, what does Israel have to do with
I'm
this?
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna show that in a second. I wanted to say what you're saying.
Oh,
It's hard enough to replace first line supervisors, second line supervisors. You're talking about replacing generals and sergeant majors at high levels. It's just utterly ridiculous. And Harold, he throws around this Christian thing so much. Not Dave Hegseth. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, isn't this the guy? So do you know this, Harold? Do you know how Hegseth met his second wife?
I have no clue.
He met her when he was cheating on her with his first wife. Do you know how he met his third wife?
Lord have mercy.
He met her while he was cheating on his second wife. But that's the guy that has the Christian values.
Well, I mean, no different than the president. Keep it a buck.
All right,
No
back to
different than
you,
the
Dave.
president.
I just want to throw it out there. Back to you too. It says, "What do Israel have to do with this? They have some blame too." So now we know the answer to that, but that's a question. A lot of people they don't follow the weeds, or I mean, they're not in the weeds, or they don't follow this as closely as you two. So they're trying to understand the connection between Israel, the United States, and why we're in Iraq.
yesterday the New York Times published an excellent article getting into the weeds and dealing with this. And the headline of the article is how Trump took the U.S. to war with Iran, but in it, the basic plot line is laid out, and it's good reporting. A February 11th meeting where Netanyahu and the head of Israeli intelligence, the Mossad, briefed Trump and convinced him, sold him on a war plan, and then their pitch survived many attempts from Trump's staff to push it back. So that New York Times article just appeared yesterday has some of the best reporting on this. And it seems that Netanyahu succeeded in pitching him and convincing him that the plan was good, to the point that Trump's own people, who are not, I don't think he doesn't surround himself with competent people. I think, and he knows that. And so he isn't swayed by them, and he just went with it. And so I would say everyone really wants to get a hold of that article and read it, because that's got the best reporting on it so far.
Dave, I don't believe you. Are you telling me that Noam and Bondi and Patel and Hegseth aren't competent people?
I'm telling you that yes, I think Trump very consistently picked people who had two characteristics: they were loyal and not particularly successful. There are one or two exceptions: Marco Rubio. Although I would have said Noam was fairly well qualified, being a governor, at least, that's better than Kash Patel, who's a podcaster, being, you know,
I
but
don't know.
I
Well,
think he
I
picked
see what
he
you're
picked
saying with
people who are
governor, but
incompetent.
I see what you're saying with governor, but I could see a governor of a border state maybe, but the governor of South Dakota qualified for Homeland Security.
Well, I'm
Almost a border
comparing to
state.
Kash.
Huh?
Almost a border state. A few hundred miles. Hey,
Oh,
right
they
there.
got North Dakota. What are they stopping North Dakotans from coming down to
I
South
said
Dakota?
almost a few hundred miles north. Hey,
I'm
she's there.
just saying, compared to a weekend Fox
Yeah.
News broadcaster.
Yes, I do understand. I do understand your point. A bunch of unqualified people who all railed about DEI hires. Got it.
Well, and I think it's very important that this is actually what authoritarian leaders do. They do not want people that are a challenge to them, and I think it's going to play out that these people don't have a future without Trump, and people who have their own success, their own credentials, would have a future and would think about that future at times like this. But well, almost everyone on his cabinet has nothing without Trump. And when people say, "Oh, 25th Amendment," I'm like, really? You think any of these people are going to get on board? What have they got to live for without Trump? So I think that's a big part of the logic behind having incompetent people.
Most definitely. Most definitely. You don't want to appear not to be the smartest in the room, even though you're not the smartest in the room. So you bring in people that you know you don't respect, really, and I think that's what it boils down to. He doesn't really respect them. They're just in position just because he gave them a position, and he doesn't have to answer to them. They have to answer to him.
Well, I mean, just look at it. He didn't respect his vice president at all before he became his running mate as vice president. The things that he said about JD Vance, I don't care how you want me to further my career. I would not be your vice president with the things you said about me, But it's also very. I know this is steering. Somebody pointed this out on the not the live comment, but a comment on the last video. It said it's very funny to me that you have a vice president who's married to a person who's not white. You
Indian
have
woman.
a president who's been married, what, two or three times to an immigrant, and yet they have these strong positions on immigrants and minorities. It's like, what world am I in?
Well, in many cases, they didn't have those positions before. You married that person, whatever, out of love or whatever the reason you married them. But it wouldn't make sense if they felt the way that they're expressing now enough to then marry that person. So at some point there was a pivot, there was a switch. Something happened that emboldened them to bring out some stuff that even that particular spouse didn't even know was resonating down there in that reservoir, whatever. And so now we're starting to see it, and I guarantee, it's having an impact. You know, we don't know how long or short term it will have, but I can almost assure you, when this clown show is over, you know, we're going to see a lot of women straying, and not so much straying away, but just leaving their marriages, behind a lot of the issues that have been elevated as a result of their magness. I'll say that.
Segueing right into birthright citizenship. Trump was not very happy during the Supreme Court hearing. He left very angrily. Harold, I put on Facebook that you said this in our immigration episode with Cello, not the
Hmm.
debate, because Dave had the esteemed pleasure of debating Cello. I would give no one else that right but him.
Yes.
But you told Cello
We're
over
really
here
making too much out of this at this point, but carry on.
because there's some dead horses that need to be beat. But you told him a year, almost a year and a half ago, that he will attack birthright citizenship, and he told you were nuts. You're over exaggerating. Look where we are now.
Well, again, if you're trying to rid people, see, birthright citizenship was originally, put in place to assist the formerly enslaved in gaining their rights as U.S. citizens. So, as a result of that, many who have come to this nation have benefited from birthright citizenship, you know, embedded within the 14th Amendment. And as a result of that, now they don't what people don't realize, and a lot of people choose to dismiss, is that once you're able to continue your attack of black people, and that's probably the most rooted and grounded race outside of the white race within America, because they haven't even said anything, mentioned the Constitution doesn't even mention the indigenous people, the Indians who were here prior to anyone else, as well as other African nations that were also here prior to during their exploratory years as well. But nonetheless, when it comes to birthright citizenship, that's the only thing that, if it's able to be uprooted, would serve as a potential for deporting anyone that may be what is considered in this new terminology foundational Black Americans. So the goal is to try to see what you can do to uproot those one group, which can create a domino effect on other groups. And sadly, that's what I'm surprised he woke up long enough in the Supreme Court hearing, because those can be very dull. I sat there for a few moments. I listened when I was in DC once, and not that impressed. But anyway, I'm surprised he stayed up awake long enough to hear what the arguments were, or I don't know if he was told on the way out the door uh, what transpired, and left him kind of upset. But anyway, I digress.
Oh, let me just say it. He left because he didn't want to hear an Asian ACLU lawyer arguing these points. He couldn't sit in the room with a
Wow.
woman making good. Who, if you heard some of that stuff, she just
She
she
laid
just
it. Yeah.
she just ripple fired, man. She was
Lit
on
him up.
point, making
Love it.
good points, and was cogent and just devastating in because she's got the easiest argument to make. It's written, it's right there. All the everything is on your side, and but I think that's a big part of it. Is it's an Asian woman. I think pretty sure I'm remembering it right. Because and she's making this argument, and he doesn't want to sit around and listen to that, right? And Mike, I'm sorry, I'm being long-winded, but
No, no,
I
you're
did
allowed to on our. Stop it. Stop
I
it.
did see you put that. It's living in my head rent free. The key thing though is Michael Popak at Legal AF, who's part of the Minus Touch thing.
Love him.
He said that when he was interviewing, I believe he was interviewing the lawyer for E. Jean Carroll, or maybe it was E. Jean Carroll herself. He asked when they thought, whoever he was interviewing, when they thought, she thought it was either way, it was a she thought the jury went over their side. And the person who was interviewing said when Trump left, like because Trump had been there and he got up and stormed out. And at that moment, he signaled all this negative, he just proved the case. And they said the jury, they just felt it in the room, this subtext that this was really bad. Now, with the Supreme Court, I think he lost when he showed up because he tried to intimidate them. And
Which is crazy because he remember what he said a long time ago. He's very disappointed in some of the people there. I mean, what was it? 3 or 4 of those appointees are his. 3? I think it's 3. 3 of those
yeah,
appointees are his, and they don't agree with him barely at all, and he's not happy about that. But dude, you're the one who had a misunderstanding of what a Supreme Court judge is supposed to do.
and how stupid is this guy? He goes because I heard him being interviewed, and he says, talking about the people he appointed, that he said, well, they wanted to try to show their independence, so they try to vote against me, right? And so he was commenting on that, right? I'm like, okay, if that's what you think they're doing, that they're in fact trying to push against you to assert their independence, and so that's their motivation for going against you, not the merits of the case, not their long held
It's not
ideas
him.
about the world, right? Why would you go and visibly try to intimidate them? Don't you understand that by your own logic, you're creating a situation where they would feel a greater need to assert their independence, right? And so you can't, the words coming out of your mouth, you're describing a reality, but you're not acting as if that reality that you described existed and was real and had consequences. So you don't know what you're doing, or you can't think 2 steps ahead. You are not playing checkers. You're not, much less chess at this point. And so there you go. Plane landed.
I love it.
This is where you talk again.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry if you want me to stop. My answers, you need to follow them at something.
Lord have mercy.
Well, you didn't say you were landing your helicopter, so
Oh, now it's a helicopter. Okay.
yeah.
I did also. I actually abbreviated it. I did all sorts of. God.
I thought you were going to talk longer.
Wow. Wow.
Dave's like, you know what?
How
This is my last
stupid is
episode.
Keone? He asked me to keep it short, and then when I do it,
I don't want you
you're
to keep
not.
it short. I said you go
I
on
was
this shit.
picking up on the Trump thing. That was
Listen, Dave, be
parallelism.
you.
People, back off.
Somebody explain, because this has been and I know this isn't on the thing today, but this birthright citizenship that we just talked about. Some people are confused about why we're, and excuse my French, dicking around with the identification at polling. And some people aren't understanding. They're like, well, why shouldn't we have to show ID at the voting booth? And I'm trying to explain to someone, you do that verification when you register to vote, and it's in the system. And so now we're talking about if you get married and your name changes and it doesn't match the ID, what are we doing? This whole episode today is what do we do?
What's going on? Well, bottom
Yeah.
line is,
What's going on with that?
I have to go back and look at the data again, but there was a study by the Heritage Foundation, on this whole voter fraud thing. And if you look at the actual numbers of the billions of votes that they were being tallied, if I'm not mistaken, it was less than 100, not less than 200, less than 100 actually fraudulent votes that were
Yes, I
taken
saw that report.
in
Yes.
so many decades. But that minuscule number has prompted
That's a win.
all of this. In other words, the exaggeration of that minuscule number has prompted all of this legislation when really it's all about voter suppression. That's really what it's about. And even when you start talking about having a passport and all this other crap, not everyone can afford a passport. Let's just keep it a buck. Not everyone is able to get access. Okay, if you've been incarcerated for a number of years, you get out, get your rights restored. Why didn't they give you an ID? Government issued ID while you're in jail so that they can identify you if they need to bring you back. I mean, there's a number of things that can and could be done. They don't even, you got states issuing IDs to college students. And many of those states don't even accept those IDs that they issue to college students as acceptable ID to go vote.
Oh, listen, I use my retired military ID because the VA gives you an ID too, but nobody considers that a valid ID. In most places, I'm like, I had to verify who I was by picture and information before they gave me this ID. So it's a little silly to me. And one thing that'll be brought up with that too, Dave, when it comes to fraud, and I know we're not here to teach a voting class, but these are comments that people leave. I've never understood mail in ballots. Can't I just say I'm Dave Hayes and mail in my ballot?
Well, you can as long as Dave Hayes doesn't show up, and I mean, when they have those ballots, they have a system. They check these things, right? These are actually fairly good systems. And the thing about the Save Act and all these things they're trying to do, and Lissette's talking about it. I hope I'm not butchering or mispronouncing. Women that are married, poor people. A lot of the narrative is that voter suppression will favor Republicans over Democrats. However, comma, I'm not so sure this is the case.
Correct.
In a lot of, it's not always the case. Certainly, women have a unique problem in that if they get married, and Lori, my wife, has had this problem of to get a passport, right? You've got to go through marriage certificate, because her name has changed a couple times, and so that is obviously a problem. But Republicans, I think the thing about the Save Act is they want to create these burdens, right? You've got to show this, you've got to do this, and a lot of it, like some of these things are everyone has to re-register, and we've got to verify everyone. This only helps Republicans if they believe the lie that there are vast numbers of illegal people voting, which we know is a lie. Harold just talked about it. So now that's not there. That doesn't, if they believe their own lies, then yes, doing all this will let them win elections. But wait a minute, if they're going to make people jump through all these hoops, who votes for Trump? Uneducated white people, right? Non-college white people. And they tend to be poorer white people. And so we always think poor, I mean, it's kind of a thing. Poor equals marginalized, right? Poor equals minority. No, it doesn't, right? We should know this because we're always saying it when we talk about whatever, right? There are a lot of poor Republicans in these states. Are these people, a lot of the red states, they don't have passports. Do these folks have their birth certificates? Are they going to be able to go through the voting? And, one reason Democrats outperform in special elections is they are tapping into the more engaged, more educated section of voters who know that special elections are going on and, outside of an election year. And those same people are going to do better at meeting the requirements of registration. So I'm just looking at the Save Act and I'm going, look, this is going to hurt you guys maybe more, certainly in some states, than in others. It's stupid. You're believing it only works if you believe your lies. I'm sorry, that was really long. I'm bad.
No, that was necessary. It only works if you believe your lies. That's when it
Yes.
works. That's when it works. Um, let's get into the. I'm going to say let's get into the big beautiful bill. There are a lot of ramifications coming from the big beautiful bill that people are blaming on other people because people don't read bills. They just look at the news, they look at what they're talking about in the specifics of a bill, and no one ever goes back. Maybe you guys do. The average person doesn't go back and look at all the other things that are implemented in the bill. TSA is having a major problem. We all know that. I've just traveled to California. I was smart enough to pick the first plane in the morning because after I took off, it was a nightmare that entire day. Um, in summary, and I'm going to summarize it from my perspective. You've come in and a part of the budget help you cut positions and jobs at TSA. Now you're trying to rehire agents back, and a lot of those agents have found other avenues and aren't coming back. And you're having to hire new agents, which means you have to pay more because training costs. And in some airports, you have people, ICE, that make more money than a TSA agent filling in for a TSA agent. Make it make sense.
It doesn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Dave looked at me like, you want me to make this fucking make sense?
It doesn't. Next
Why
question.
why
I'm
should it
sorry.
make sense? It's the government.
I just,
But even with the video, while they were on strike, and you had TSA agents not reporting to work or going to find other work so that they could pay their bills, you also had ICE agents standing in airports watching.
well, they don't know what to do. They're not trained.
Exactly.
So they're
So
in the,
we got an
have you ever wanted to
overpaid
do something?
individuals who they're ensuring that ICE gets paid, but no other quote unquote essential personnel are getting paid, and that's I mean, as an
Which is,
abomination within
which is
itself.
my
But
biggest, my bigger point. Yeah, you're right. Which is my bigger point. You both have, everyone's dealt with this. Have you ever, were you ever completing a task and someone wanted to help you and you're like, no, I got it. And they were like, well, I just wanted to help. And it's not that I don't want your help. It's just that you're going to be in the way.
it's going to take me twice as long now. See, stop it.
Yeah.
No, I get you. But no, I mean, the bottom line is no, those people are not, they're not even trained to do immigration customs enforcement. Let's be real there. So how you now are going to come in and help people screen passengers going on the airplanes? So
Well, we saw the FBI report over, in some places, over 64% of the people that were working for ICE in certain places didn't pass either the physical fitness test or the background check, but they were still given the ability to be an ICE agent.
sounds like Jared Kushner. Oh,
I,
I'm
I
sorry.
just I just can't believe they aren't required to have BLET.
I thought you were going to say BLM.
No, so, Bureau of Land Management. The no basic law enforcement training. BLET. Right?
Hold on, Dave. You get this.
Well, it could mean a lot of things. So that's why I was always like, I've been out west a lot.
Yeah.
BLM is that's the original acronym. So when I would hear Black Lives Matter, I'd be like, you know, that sounds okay. Never mind. The point though is though, I mean, just to be like a cop, a beat cop, right? You have to get basic law enforcement, and they don't require that of these guys. And then you saw them in the airports with their masks off. These are some doofuses. I mean, no wonder you're wearing a mask because you all
I
are
cannot.
some basement dwelling people.
Dave has recovered.
I'm just saying though that now of course they were picking people, they were cherry picking it, but yeah, they're Meal Team Six. This is the wannabes, um, and they're the people that they've tried to recruit. They've tried to recruit the ideologically motivated folks, and these are not the competent folks. And meanwhile, though, we got TSA, and we made a decision after 9/11 to federalize the security. Right before that, airports hired people, and you had a mishmash. And we decided, oh no, this is too important. Now we're thinking of privatizing it, which means going back to a decentralized model, which might be a plan. It certainly would avoid the problem of every time there's a government shutdown, our airports spiraling out of control. And so privatization is not necessarily a bad thing. Are they going to handle it properly? And uh, that well, again, we don't have competent people running the show.
to
So
make that
Well,
decision.
I'm okay with some parts of privatization, but there's certain things that private, once you privatize it, it loses its effectiveness. In the sense that it becomes more of a profit-driven venture than a people-driven venture. And once that happens, you lose sight of the true purpose of that particular entity or organism. And so, if you're talking about now privatizing, for example, TSA or privatizing ICE or privatizing, anyone, even now here where we get these private prisons in Florida, Florida law says basically if an inmate escapes, it's not their fault. They're not going to be responsible for it. And now you got to rely on local law enforcement to hopefully capture the individual. So it's like they won't even pursue the person once they leave the grounds of wherever they're being held. So privatization again. My issue overall in America with privatizing many of our government departments and or services is the simple fact that Republicans do not believe in accountability. They don't believe in oversight. They want all of these restrictions or any particular oversight that would be held, that would hold anybody responsible or accountable, to be dismissed. So if the things go in that direction, I'm really concerned because I got planes falling out the sky, air traffic controllers falling asleep, fire trucks getting run over by airplanes. I mean, there's a whole lot going on, and we don't know who's at the wheel. I land my plane.
So much to take. Well, you landed your plane. Let me make sure I get through TSA so I can get on the plane with you.
It's already on the runway.
Well, said, do you think we are headed for a recession?
I've been looking up the odds on it.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Can we bet on these odds?
There are,
well,
yes, you
there's
can.
models that make these predictions, and the odds of a recession are 49%, which is high. Some places are reporting 40%, 49%. More likely, we're going to enter a period of inflation, largely driven by higher fuel costs because the fuel costs have not peaked yet.
Don't.
And, the war has definitely driven that. And but I'm just seeing the odds are climbing, but yeah, I'm not getting a good thing. I'm seeing 45, 30, 40 from different people. But I think, prices are gonna be really problematic. I mean, one thing I will say, it is amazing how strong the U.S. economy is. The economy has taken tariffs. The economy has taken just a pounding from basically the Trump administration, right, this year, and has kept on going despite all that. But we've seen, crappy job growth. We've seen a lot of negatives, but so far not a recession.
I was
But
really
$5
complaining.
gas is on the table.
Well,
What I,
one of
when
the
I
factors that
left
I'm.
and when I got to
Are you
San
talking? Oh,
Diego, huh?
I can barely hear you. We can
Oh, I
barely hear
was
you.
saying, can you hear me? You can barely hear me too, Dave?
Now you're
At
better.
first, you picked up.
Oh, okay. I was crying about gas prices because they were $3.98 when I left North Carolina a couple weeks ago, and I got to San Diego and saw it was $6.90, and I was like, "Good God, how are you people drive? No wonder everyone's got an electric car."
California's that state, man.
Yeah,
That's the
it
state for
cost
electric
me.
cars.
It would have cost. I switched to an electric car, Dave. It would have cost me $812 for the stay for the rental car in California. And when I switched to the electric, it cost me $353 with the recharging. That's insane.
I think one of the most important variables that's going to either throw us into a recession or keep us out of one is going to be consumer spending. If people stop buying, we're going to tank real quick. And
Well, they're
this
almost
a
about
lot
this.
of the market manipulation that has been going on and continues to go on is, I think, one of the saving graces, of things getting worse. But when consumer spending weakens, I think that's what's going to be the final domino that needs to fall for us to go
Well,
into a
isn't that
recession.
already
Let's just say.
falling because you're already having people being priced out, and also shrinkflation has not slowed down from what I've been noticing.
Well, I mean, but if you look at what you're getting now when you go to the grocery store,
Mhm.
you got the shrinkage of our packaging or of our products. A candy bar today doesn't look like a candy bar yesterday that we had when we were growing up. If You look at even the size of the things that we're buying, whether it's milk, whether it's ice cream, or whatever the case may be, though that packaging is shrinking.
Well,
But
no, no.
yet,
So at least with the
yet
candy
you know,
bar,
the prices are going up.
yeah, but at least with the candy bar, they make the wrapper the size of the candy bar, not the potato chips where you open the bag and the potato chips are the first quarter of the bag.
Well, but that's been that way since forever. So
Yeah.
I can't. But what I'm saying is, when I look at it, a candy bar that used to say maybe
Mhm.
2 ounces, and now it's
Yeah.
one, or 3 quarters, or whatever the case may be. So it's amazing how the product sizes are shrinking, yet the prices are going up. And as
Right.
soon as people get tired of it,
What does this all mean for electoral elections that are happening in the rest of 2026 and going forward? Because in a lot of places, and Dave, you're a polling guy.
Ooh,
Um,
ooh, ooh, what?
I know, you're a polling guy, and Democrats are heavily getting favored in places that they historically have not been favored. But people will tell us that the MAGA train is not dying. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh,
You
it's
might go.
dead. Oh no, it's I'm they're losing a lot, and I think
Wait, Dave. I'm sorry. Did you see the video of the lady? The guy asked her a question. She's like, "Yeah, and I voted for him 3 times. Apparently, I'm a dumbass."
Trump is underwater now in his approvals. He's like the critical thing. I mean, you keep hearing and Larry Harry Enton, who like was a Nate Silver protege, and he's like the quantitative guy for CNN. He just keeps freaking out over things, and is always like, "Oh my God, look at this," and the percentage swings are off the charts. But two things, I think, two things are key. One, Trump won because independent voters, swing voters, voting on their perception of the economy didn't like what had happened, right? And they believed that the price of eggs were too high, right? And so they went with him on that. No one thinks that those people are happy now, right? Meanwhile, the go-to people for Trump have always been non-college educated whites, and he is now underwater with them. He finally has, it's not a huge, it's single digits, which is weird because he's usually underwater by double digits, but he's lost them. So the thing is that the Republican strategy continues to be, let's get Trump out there. Let's do everything for Trump. The identity of the Republican Party was merged with Trump, and they're still there. And as long as they keep doing that, then they're going to go down, and they're going to go down huge. The other thing I'll say is back to what we were all talking about. Trump is trying to tell you the economy is not bad, right? And even though I might come up with, well, there are certain things, blah, blah, blah. Kamala Harris lost because she, or Biden, one of their biggest problems was they tried to tell voters things were better than they were. That was Biden's big problem. Harris's big problem is she admitted things were bad, but then didn't have an answer. Trump's not going to admit things are bad. He's going to go the Biden route, which was even less successful with Kamala Harris. And so they're going down a path that, uh, and some of them have talked about it, that Gavin Newsom has talked about how he made that mistake and he's watching Trump do it now. So, yeah, they're going to take a drudging.
so you're saying the American people would willfully embrace a lie rather than accept the truth?
No.
Meaning, you said Kamala Harris will tell you that things aren't as bad as what they were.
No, Kamala
Oh,
Harris's
that
No,
they
she
were
said
bad.
they were bad.
I think
And
Kamala
then
Harris's
Trump.
problem was that she tried to go away from Biden. Biden tried to sell, hey, the economy's fine, right? And which was actually, it was getting better, right?
Mhm.
I would have argued yes, that's exactly the case. Inflation's down. Kamala got in and did the smart thing, I think, was accepting that people thought it was bad,
Right.
but then made the mistake also for good reasons. I always say Kamala Harris never did anything I didn't understand why she was doing it. Right? I understood the logic of everything she did. It did not add up to success. Um, Now she was not in a good position to begin with. I don't think she's to blame for her not
Oh,
winning,
no,
to
no,
be honest.
no. I
But
agree.
in terms of mistakes, the thing was you said, "Hey, it's really bad, but I'm going to do everything that I can't think of a single thing that I'd do different than my boss." That's a losing argument right
Yeah,
there,
that
and
doesn't
that
make sense.
lost people, I think, and that was what I'm saying in looking back on how they went.
Yeah, if people think their
I felt
lives,
at the time I was like, this isn't strong. This is not strong.
yeah, if people think their lives stink, and you're saying, well, we're going to continue to do this, it's still going to stink.
You
Then you've
can't
got,
tell voters that the economy that they shouldn't believe their eyes,
Mhm.
right? Voters know their state of economic well-being,
And you're saying this is
and
exactly why people are turning on Trump because he keeps telling them this is what it is. We're not going to have any wars.
right.
Prices are going to go down.
And I'm
You
sorry if
know,
I confuse things. I think Biden made the mistake of trying to tell people, no, you're wrong.
mhm.
Kamala Harris corrected that, but couldn't take the step of saying, and my boss fucked up, so I'm going
What
to do
what
this.
she would do differently, basically,
Right.
as she had
Because
said, what
she
she would do
couldn't
differently. That would
do
have.
that.
Right. Because saying she would do it differently says he did everything wrong, or say
She
that,
she
then you
was
run
in a
with that.
no it wasn't a no-win situation, but no, Biden lost that election. If I'm not clear on how I feel about that, Biden effed up when he ran, and he's to
Mhm.
blame. I blame him. One of my favorite politicians ever, but I blame his ass morning to sunset and then into the wee hours of the following morning.
Yeah, he became president 20 years too late. Um,
I hate to say it, I like the guy, but
uh, well, I don't have a personal grudge against him. I mean, just like I don't have
almost
personal
do.
animosity to Bush. I don't like a lot of the things that happened when he was in office, but I don't personally dislike the guy. This guy in office, I'm sorry. Harold always says facts over feelings. With this guy, it's facts and my feelings. It's the first time that I've ever had to utilize both of those because I always not take it personally. I understand what powers the president have, what the president should and should not be blamed for. This person has gone well out of the boundaries of what a president should and should not be blamed for, and with good reasons. So there's that.
hey, Lisette is on like a tear
Boom.
over here.
She's out there.
Yeah.
She's out there.
I
Well,
lost my mouse. I can't scroll back.
I don't mean no harm, but when he showed you
I preach,
himself the
Lissette.
first time, you should have believed him.
I
Oh,
think we
yeah.
need to scroll back to see what she's talking, or he. I
Oh,
don't know
well,
who.
she was talking about the president when you were saying he's saying this and about the economy. She
Right.
said
He's
Oh,
saying
he's
it from
saying
a
this from
she's
a
saying about
wealthy
wealthy,
Trump.
selfish
perspective.
man's
So it's not going to
perspective.
impact him, in other words.
It's not going to
He is
impact him.
Trump. Is
His
that
sons,
He
he?
being Trump, yes.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah, not you.
'Cause
His
we've been talking
sons.
Biden and Harris, and
Oh, no. That was
yeah.
when you were talking about Trump. His sons' net worth have gone up. I mean, the amount that he's made in crypto has been ridiculous. Maybe that's why he let the crypto guy out of jail.
Yeah, but
Who knows?
one of his sons also has a firm that now has a DoD contract of over
Of
six
course he
hundred
did.
million dollars.
Oh, the we really need the next administration needs a really we need Jack McCoy as our attorney general.
Oh, we can go back to Jack Smith. Hey, he'll
Yeah,
do his thing.
bring him back in. The by the corruption's off the chain,
Oh
off
yeah,
the charts with this, and I think that
But I thought he was going to end corruption.
well, populists always do this. I mean, it is from research into populism before Trump was elected. One of the common things they noted that populists complain about corruption. But when they get into power, they are more corrupt because the belief is everybody does it, so our guy, at least it's our guy doing it now. right? That's the essence of populism.
Wow.
It's not a belief. There's no belief in institutional safeguards or norms of behavior, and you think that elites have taken advantage of it. So when you dismiss all of that, when you take power, you're not bound by them.
But I just
I mean,
want
that
us
was
today,
pretty
after
short
all this stuff clears, after the smoke clears,
for
ask
me.
them to release the rest of the Epstein files. That's all.
I think, but I think they're going to go after. I mean, there's so much crap
Oh yeah.
out there with these crypto. I mean, there's just blatant stuff out there.
Oh,
They're
It's
there's
not trying to
definitely quid
cover their
pro quo
acts.
going on all over the place.
And I think there's going to be a lot of reeling back in that money. I think once Trump is gone and not around, uh, I think that's going to be the thing, and it's going to be. Well, I don't know. We'll see if we get. If you get another Merrick Garland, we're screwed.
Yeah,
Talk about
agreed.
somebody else to be pissed at.
Agreed. Can't slow walk this thing. We gotta.
Well, don't forget when we're done with Iran, we're attacking Greenland or Iceland or whatever the hell. He doesn't know the difference.
No, we need a 25th Amendment. Or create a 29th Amendment, as far as I'm concerned. But whatever we gotta do, you gotta go.
Why do I always feel like crap at the end of this show?
Well,
Your
because we're
fault.
talking about I remember there was a time when if I even used the T word, you freaked out. You said, "Oh, now all my comments are gonna be people complaining." Now everything, it's like we start with the picture of the guy.
Well, that's before. I mean, I didn't know that we were going to be not we. When I say we, I mean the country. I don't mean me. I didn't know we were going to be dumb enough to elect them again.
I
I thought
thought
we were done. I
we,
thought we were done.
we adopted a puppy recently,
Mhm.
and
Aw.
so we got this puppy running around here, and my wife said, thank God for Tilly, because our puppy's name is Tilly, which is the Star Trek Discovery character. Yes, but she's like, thank God, because she's bringing joy to an otherwise depressing time.
All right. Well,
Hey,
hey,
did
I
you guys see the Artemis astronauts when Trump was talking to them? There was an awkward pause,
They're like, what the fuck are we talking?
an intentionally awkward long pause. So they never interacted. He said what he said, and they sat there passing the mic to each other.
They were like playing with the mic, like they were like flipping it around, not listening to the dude. It was hilarious.
That was sad.
It's like
But
your do you know your camera's on?
no, and again, total silence the whole time. And I think after they heard the line clear, that's when one of them picked up the mic to ask Mission Control if they were still there, or whatever the case, or did they get disconnected? And
oh
they
my
responded.
God.
But it's interesting. Go to the dark side of the moon. You never know how they're going to act. What can I say?
Did you just say go to the dark side of the moon?
I said when they go to the dark side of the moon,
Oh, that's what
you
you
never
said.
know what's going to happen.
This is true. You never know what's going to happen. Hey, well, I asked a very, very, very avid Trump supporter the other day, can you please explain to me why on God's earth you voted for Trump again? And here was their answer.
Have you ever had a dreams that you had you could you do you want you could do so you do you could you want
What the fuck are you talking?